próximos 2 días y también en inglés para que podamos expresarnos en el idioma que deseemos. Hoy vamos a proveer la interpretación por medio de Zoom, entonces les voy a compartir las instrucciones. Si ustedes nos están acompañando hoy por medio de su computador, en la parte de abajo a mano derecha van a ver un globo que dice interpretación. Cuando ustedes le hacen clic al globo, pueden escoger español si quieren escuchar en español, inglés si quieren escuchar inglés, o si quieren escuchar el idioma original, que hoy va a ser el inglés, pueden simplemente apagar su interpretación. Si nos están acompañando desde su teléfono, luce un poco diferente. En la parte de abajo a la derecha de su pantalla del teléfono hay 3 puntos. Cuando ustedes tocan los 3 puntos, eligen interpretación de idiomas y el idioma que prefieran y después presionan hecho. Eso es todo. Muchísimas gracias. Use las instrucciones en el chat para que las compartan o las puedan usar más adelante. Gracias. Good afternoon. My name is Maria Angelica. My pronouns are she and they. And today I will be providing Spanish and English interpretation alongside my colleague Flavia with MARP Language Services to ensure that today and tomorrow we have access to this very important conversation that is going to be shared, and also that we have the freedom to express ourselves in the language that we prefer between English and Spanish. So today we're going to provide the interpretation through Zoom, and I will explain how to access this interpretation. I'm also dropping the instructions in the chat. If you are joining us in Zoom from your computer, at the bottom right-hand corner, there is a globe that says interpretation. When you click on the globe, you can choose Spanish if you want to listen in Spanish, English if you want to listen in English, or if you want to listen to the original audio, which today it will be English, you can just have your interpretation off. If you're joining us from your phone, it looks a little different. On the Zoom screen on your phone, there are 3 dots at the right-hand side. When you touch the dots, you can choose language interpretation and then the language that you prefer. And then you touch done. That is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we can start now. So I'll start with introducing myself. My name is Besma Alawi. I used to be, up to last week, the Florida refugee organizer with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. And I want to thank Florida Immigrant Coalition members and organization for all the investment in the refugee organizer. Now I am the We Are All American National Campaign Manager. And today I am going to co-host this event with Oliver, who's going to also introduce himself.
Thanks so much, Basma. I feel so honored and privileged to be a part of this exposition. It's been an amazing experience working alongside so many incredible advocates across the state and even across the country. So I use he, him, él pronouns. My name is Oliver Torres, and I am a senior outreach paralegal with the Southern Poverty Law Center in the Immigrant Justice Project. I'm based out of Miami, Florida. And today we are celebrating the State of Florida Inclusion Expo. It's going to be an incredible 2 days filled with so much incredible knowledge and passion. It's going to be both a celebration of everything that we've accomplished and a sharing of incredible information, stories, cultures, policies, advocacy strategies. And so the time today will run from 1 p.m. EST to 5 p.m. EST. And tomorrow, Saturday, June 26th, will be the same 1 p.m. EST till 5 p.m. EST. For those who need interpretation services, just a reminder that is available. So if you need interpretation services and are confused, you can send a Zoom message to one of the panelists. And Basma, should we go ahead and transition over to the history?
Yes, so we first want to start really educating the community about the history of this project. And it goes back to 2 or 3 years ago. I met Sion Heng, who is not with us today, but who we saw together that it's really important for us to learn about the Florida history of immigrants and refugees in North Florida. And that's how it started, through an interview with a refugee myself, who we started to understand the history of refugees and immigrants in North Florida through story sharing and collection of stories. And then we thought that it's really important to do more of this and to understand how Florida had been inclusive to the immigrants and refugees community in North Florida. And that's where the project started with the Welcoming Gainesville. And then we had wrote a proposal, really nice proposal for Islamic Relief USA. And we heard back with them before the pandemic hit. And the project was called Learn, Share, and Change. And the learn part was to learn about the refugees and immigrants' history in the state of Florida. The share part was more to share the stories of refugees and immigrants and share the history of refugees and immigrants in the state of Florida. And the change part was to share the change that's been happening in the state of Florida to make Florida more inclusive to our communities. And the pandemic hit, so we needed to change the whole project to be virtual. And that gave us a really great opportunity to hold the project statewide with the support of Florida Immigrant Coalition, the Coalition of We Are All America, and organizations like Reef Tales in Care Florida, Engage, and many other organizations like ACLU stepped in from the beginning to support, SPLC stepped in from the beginning to support because they saw the importance of supporting a project like this. So we have been learning really since the beginning of last year about the refugees and immigrants stories and history in the state of Florida. We have been also sharing the stories as well, and sharing the change, which is all we're going to speak about a little bit later today. But we have gathered all of this into an amazing intensive report that we will be speaking about in the next 2 days. And the report all are in a booklet that we have sent to the people who registered in the past to make sure that they have access to the booklet, which is around 200 pages that sharing the stories of the whole project and where we are now. And hopefully in the end of these 2 days, we will come up with some kind of comprehensive policy plan that could help us move forward to make Florida more inclusive to our immigrants and refugees and minorities community. So I want now to give it back to Oliver to see if you want to add anything about the history, because he has been involved in this project since the beginning and is still supporting this project to go further.
Thanks, Basma. So I remember about 3 years ago, I think now, I received an email from Seon Huang, who you mentioned, with so much excitement about this brilliant idea that she had to create this blueprint, a roadmap for Florida. This seemed so ambitious at the time. And here we are 3 years later with the culmination of these years of research and advocacy and engagement. And so over the course of time, the idea developed into something more concrete and evolved, as Basma just mentioned. And so with Seon, we kind of went on an exploration of the different kinds of advocacy and policies and strategies for immigrant inclusion. What does that mean across many spaces, right? What does that mean in relation to education, to being able to go to work, to being able to access necessary services in the community, right? And then also grounding it on cultural exchange and how do things like food, right, and other cultural events contribute to a feeling of inclusion in communities. And so the hope is that through this blueprint, through this roadmap, we could have some sort of a unifying strategy across our large and vibrant state, so that advocates can be unified, right? Find alignment as we continue to push to make our state the best it can be for all communities, regardless of where you started. We all have a home in Florida. We know we all have a home in Florida. And it's on us to make it as cozy and as comfortable as possible. And now I'll pass it back to Basma for an exciting introduction.
Yes, and I just want to thank all the coalition members. They are all listed in the graphic, the main graphic, but we have had over 45 organizations, universities, and faith groups have been really supporting this, and researchers, which was really amazing working with like the organizing advocacy and policy makers, but also to interact with researchers in the past 2 years. And going back to the faith groups and faith organizations, we have been really blessed to work with organizations who are led by their faith to make sure that Florida is inclusive to everyone. And today I want to introduce Wilfredo Ruiz, who's gonna start us with really prayer to support us start this event. Wilfredo, in addition to being an attorney, he is also a chaplain. Wilfredo is currently the communication director for the Council of American Islamic Relationship, Florida, the state's largest Muslim civil liberties and advocacy organization, having previously served as its civil rights legal counsel for over 4 years. He is the board member of the Interfaith Workers Justice in Florida. Without further ado, I will love to hear always the amazing prayer that Wilfredo always share with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Basma. Thank you, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We start everything in the name of our Lord, the most gracious, the most merciful. Beloved Creator, we thank you, Lord, for allowing this community to gather as brothers and sisters in humanity with a common goal of joining our intentions, our will, our prayers, and our labor seeking justice and for the protection of the well-being of the immigrant families, our mothers, and our beloved children. We humbly pray you, merciful Lord, for the victims and families of the collapsed building in the neighborhood, in our neighborhood in Surfside, Miami. Lord, grant us patience and give spiritual and physical strength to those first responders working tirelessly at the scene that remind us of the fragility of our lives and our need for your infinite mercy, our Lord. We pray you, O Lord, to keep our communities committed to remain deeply rooted in the respect and defense of the sanctity of our families, the bedrock of our towns, our counties, and our nation. In our holy book, the Quran, in the Surah 4, number 4, Aliyah or verse 36, our Lord says, translated into English, do good unto your parents and the near of kin, and unto your orphans and the needy, and the neighbor from among your own people, and the neighbor who's a stranger, and the friend by your side, the wayfarer, and your servants. Help us, Lord, to never again allow our governments and institutions to separate our families, never separate mothers from their son or their daughter, never again. Help us, merciful God, to embrace our refugees and asylum seekers with the compassion we would have for the Virgin Mary when she was seeking protection and refuge while burying her son, Jesus, the Messiah. Open our hearts, beloved Creator, so that it allows everyone in this nation to open our arms as wide as the sea was open for Prophet Musa when he was being liberated with the sons of Israel from the Pharaoh. Grant us liberation, grant us protection, and grant us refuge. We implore you, As-Salam, the source of all peace, the giver of peace, to forgive our shortcomings and to cover us, our families, and all immigrants with your infinite mantle of peace, mercy, and blessings. All our gratitude, our acts of worship, our lives and death and resurrection belong only to you, the eternal, our truth, our light. Amen. Comenzamos en el nombre de Dios, el clemente, el misericordioso. Amado Creador, te damos gracias por permitir a nuestra comunidad y a esta coalición de hermanos y hermanas en humanidad a trabajar juntos en la búsqueda de justicia y protección para nuestras familias inmigrantes, para nuestras madres y nuestros hijos. Humildemente te rogamos, Señor, por las víctimas y familiares del edificio colapsado en nuestro vecindario en Surfside, Miami. Señor, danos paciencia y dale fuerza espiritual y física a los rescatistas que trabajan en la escena incansablemente. Una escena que nos recuerda de nuestra fragilidad humana y la dependencia nuestra en ti, nuestro misericordioso Creador. Te rogamos, Señor, mantener nuestra comunidad fuertemente enraizada en el respeto y defensa de la santidad de nuestra familia, la base y fundamento de nuestros pueblos, de nuestros condados y de nuestra nación. En nuestro libro sagrado, el Corán, nuestro Creador nos dice, traducido al español: haced bien a vuestros padres, así como a los parientes, a los huérfanos, a los pobres, a los vecinos próximos y a los vecinos distantes, al compañero, al viajero y a aquellos sirvientes que tengas. Ayúdanos, Dios misericordioso, a nunca más permitir a nuestros gobiernos e instituciones a separar nuestras familias, a nunca separar una madre de su hijo o de su hija, nunca más. Permítenos, Creador, abrazar a los que buscan refugio y asilo con la misma compasión que tendríamos para acoger a la Virgen María buscando protección y refugio con su Hijo Jesús en el vientre. Abre nuestros corazones y los de toda la nación para que tengamos los brazos abiertos de la misma manera que se abrieron los mares para recibir al profeta Moisés y al pueblo de Israel liberado del yugo del faraón. Te imploramos, fuente y dador de paz, que perdones nuestras faltas, que cubras nuestras familias y a las de todos los inmigrantes con tu infinito manto de paz, misericordia y bendiciones. Toda nuestra gratitud, nuestros actos de adoración, nuestra vida, nuestra muerte y resurrección pertenecen solo a ti, el único, el eterno, nuestra luz. Amén.
Thank you so much for those powerful words, Wilfredo, and for grounding us at the start of this conference. What a privilege it is to have you here. And next, just want to share some of the great resources that we have available. As a reminder tonight, if you're looking for some exciting stuff to watch, it's a Friday night, a good time to cozy up and watch great things. There's a booklet with virtual exhibits, and they share the stories of various refugees, various immigrants in our Florida family. They're each so powerful, so compelling. I'll go ahead and shout out our own Basma Alawi. Her story is there in her journey from Iraq over to Jacksonville. And just deeply, deeply encourage you all to view it, to ground yourselves as we think about all of these topics over these next 2 days, about the various experiences that we all have. Our journeys might be different, but we all live in community. And in the spirit of celebrating community, I also want you all to look at the recipes, the hearty tables that are available. They're such fun videos. They're each about an hour long. And it really gets to the heart of what inclusion is all about, a celebration of different cultures. And culture is often celebrated through food. And so these videos will take you through the meaning of some of these dishes for various cultures. Some of the dishes: chicken biryani, tostones, alicha, arroz con camarones, knefe, Hakka chicken rice. They're all so fun. I'm so excited personally to try out some of these new recipes. Tostones are one of my personal favorites from growing up in Florida. I want to see if these tostones are better than my mom's. But I encourage you again to check them out and find out more about the cultural implications of all of these dishes and how they build our own community here in Florida. And finally, I also want to encourage you all to watch our series of webinars. They're the Forward Together webinars. And it was a 6-week series that came out last year. And this is a lot of what Sayan and I brainstormed together and thought about, right? So we have 6 different webinars. They're education and English language learners, right? So thinking about the rights of kids, the rights of parents when it comes to public education, which is critical, right, for inclusion. We are Duval and the Trust Act Coalition and Policies to talk about the power of local coalitions, right? When a community comes together and identifies their needs and fights for it and makes change happen, right? The Building a Community ID program, I love that that's there. It is the first successful community ID program that was established in Florida. And it's going to complement a presentation that I'll be co-leading tomorrow along with Thomas Kennedy and Dale Hotness about community IDs. Ours will focus more tomorrow on South Florida, and the presentation, this webinar focuses more on the earlier strategies that occurred. So it all works in family. And finally, we have 2 workshops, the state of Black immigrant protections and creating welcoming communities, especially right now in 2020. It was made even more apparent, the desperate need for us to center our Black family members, our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, our friends in our advocacy. And now I will pass it over to Basma for a great introduction.
Thank you so much, Oliver. And I'm already hungry after looking at all of these recipes. And in my back is the prayer, the Adhan. So if you are hearing a voice in the back, I will now introduce, so we talked about where actually the project started with, all the way from North Florida, Gainesville. And today we had a special testimony from Mayor Lauren Poe, and who shared with us a really great message of inclusion and what's been happening in North Florida and how we can make Florida more inclusive to the immigrants and refugees community. Please learn more about the work that's been happening in Gainesville with Welcoming Gainesville and many amazing organizations. But I think it will be better to start with the video and use this time to hear his positive, amazing message of inclusion. The video will work. It's just we are trying to figure out how to make it better.
Hello and welcome. My name is Lauren Poe. I'm the mayor of Gainesville, Florida, and I'm so pleased to be with you, albeit virtually today at the State of Florida Inclusion Expo. I hope you all are going to have an incredible time together, share some fellowship, but also produce some great work that's going to help us move forward in being more inclusive and celebrate more our incredible immigrant population. Are going to have an incredible time together, share some fellowship, but also produce some great work that's going to help us move forward in being more inclusive and celebrate more our incredible immigrant population. Immigrants have always been a major part of Gainesville. Of course, we're a major university town, and we have a large number of students who travel from all around the world to study at the university. Many of our professors are also from other countries and relocate to decide to call Gainesville home. We also have a very large immigrant population that helps keep Gainesville running. It helps put food on our tables. It helps build the homes that we live in. And so our immigrant population is diverse. It ranges from very affluent to struggling paycheck to paycheck, and everything in between. And they're such an important and dynamic part of who we are as a city, and we welcome them as our neighbors. Gainesville's been committed to our immigrant population, as well as building relationships with people from all around the world. One of our really outstanding organizations is our Gainesville Sister Cities organization. We have 9 sister cities scattered all around the world, and some are more active than others, but we've remained very active with our sister city, Kfar Saba in Israel and Kikilya in Palestine. They're just a few miles apart with a big wall separating them. We have a great sister city in Jordan called Deir Alla. We have renewed just very recently our relationship with our sister city Duhok in Iraq, in Kurdistan. And we're very excited to start building that relationship again. And we have some future sister cities potentially on the horizon. We have a local group working on developing a sister city relationship in Ghana. It would be our first African sister city. We have a city in Colombia that has reached out to us. And so those relationships keep growing, and it really helps broaden our neighbors' perspective on the world and allows folks from all those places to come visit Gainesville and learn and grow from our rich tapestry that we have right here. We also are very proud of, and I know that you all are very familiar with, our Welcoming Gainesville Alachua County group. They were founded in 2014 and sort of became official as a nonprofit in 2015. They were formed to bring together different parts of our community, the education sector, government, the nonprofit groups, as well as our business sector, including the Chamber of Commerce, to find out how we could become more welcoming and more accommodating, more inclusive to our immigrant population. And so it started out as really a show of support and extending a welcoming hand to our immigrant neighbors, but it's really grown since then. I know a program that you all probably talked about or familiar with, Weave Tales, helping really elevate and center the stories of all of our immigrant neighbors. But there's so many other things that Welcoming Gainesville Alachua County is working on. We were the first ones in the state, one of the first in the country. And since then, we've seen more and more welcoming communities spring up around Florida. And we're so happy that that movement is growing. And finally, another group here that you might not be as familiar with because they're newer. They formed during COVID as a group of UF students. It's called Contra COVID. They're part of a national organization that was founded by some medical students at Harvard Medical School. And they developed a community resource guide that's published in 4 languages. It's updated every week, and it includes information for anybody that would be moving to Gainesville really with a blank slate, doesn't know really anything about navigating our community. So everything from accessing benefits, how to use the transit system, what opportunities are available for housing. And so we have formalized that partnership with Contra COVID. Once these amazing students graduate, that the program will be sustainable through the UF College of Public Health and the City of Gainesville. And that will just be another resource that our immigrant neighbors have published in their language and really helps them easily access our community. Another local organization we're so thankful to have in our community, and I'm so excited to be working more closely with as a city, is the Rural Women's Health Project. They help elevate and defend rights of our immigrant neighbors, increase language access in different parts of our community, including access to government services. And the city has partnered with the Rural Women's Health Project and has been awarded the Gateways for Growth grant by the New American Economy as well as Welcoming America. They went together to offer this grant that we were eventually awarded. The purpose of the grant is to build a stronger environment of inclusion in our city that maximizes the contributions that our immigrant neighbors make. One of the things that I'm really excited about with this is our immigrant neighbors will actually help design the programs. And so, it's one of the first types of projects like this where the affected population will actually be designing the system that they'll be able to access. And so it's a little bit different way of doing it, but a way that I think will be highly effective and help it be sustainable in the long term. So through this, we will start with an assessment of community assets for our immigrant community. What strengths do we have, but also what deficits exist out there. We'll do some quantitative research and develop data on the economic contributions that our immigrant neighbors make. So often this, and you all know this is wrong, but there's a narrative that has been spun for decades that our immigrant neighbors pull and extract from our economies, where in fact we know they actually contribute much more than they take. So we're gonna quantify that. We're gonna get the data behind it and show what an incredible impact our immigrant neighbors make on our local economy. And then finally, we'll draft a comprehensive immigrant inclusion plan and work on an execution strategy for that. So we want to thank the Rural Women's Health Project for all the work they do, but especially their coordination with the city on this grant. It is, I think, just going to make an incredible difference for our entire community, but especially our immigrant neighbors. Another group we're really proud to work with here in Gainesville is the Human Rights Coalition. This group was formed to directly reach out and assist our immigrant neighbors. They do a bunch of other good work as well, and I don't want to sell them short with that. But they started working with Madres Sin Fronteras to help folks that were coming to our community escaping crisis. Many of our neighbors are escaping extreme violence, either from their governments or spousal abuse, different situations like that. And are here out of desperation and just looking for some support. And so HRC has really worked with the community to help be more inclusive and welcoming towards this specific group. And so one thing that they've done is created a community ID. And so anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, can go down with a little bit of verification. You can get this community ID issued by HRC. And then that ID is acceptable and can be used for a variety of city services. So our police department accepts the ID, city services accept the ID, Parks and Recreation, for example. And we're working to grow that list of who accepts it. So now lack of a state-issued ID is not a barrier to accessing services and really just being a part of our community and doing all the things that any other neighbor is able to do. They are also working right now with Welcoming Gainesville, Alachua County to identify individuals and organizations that will serve as sponsors for those seeking asylum. We know the number of asylum seekers is continuing to grow as political violence escalates in different countries, and being able to align those asylum seekers with specific families or organizations like church congregations will really increase the likelihood that they'll get a fair hearing and help guide them through that process. Finally, I just want to thank the Expo. The blueprint for making Florida more inclusive is incredible. I know that there's a lot of work yet to do, and I know that's why you're all getting together over these few days here. But just know that Gainesville is right there next to you. We stand ready to support whatever findings you have, and we recognize that every single human being has equal value, and no matter how long you've been here or where you came from, we're glad you're our neighbor. And so great work, thank you, and y'all have a great Expo.
That was so great. Always feeling so much gratitude for the powerful coalition of advocates in Alachua and Gainesville, Florida. So grateful for the modeling that they did with community IDs, with these welcoming policies and resolutions, really helped ground advocacy around the state. So thank you, Gainesville, and thank you all of the organizations that helped push this change in Florida, pioneered this change, the Rural Women's Health Project, Madres Sin Fronteras, the Human Rights Coalition, the Westminster Presbyterian Church, Florida Legal Services, and so many others. Y'all are amazing. And now I want to highlight another set of amazing advocates, a different community in Florida, in South Florida, Broward County. So Broward County also recently unanimously passed a community ID resolution. More on that tomorrow afternoon. Tune in at 3:15. And today we have the privilege of hearing from Commissioner Dale Hotness. So Broward County Commissioner Dale Hotness served publicly as a Lauderdale Hill City Commissioner and Vice Mayor 2007 and 2010. He is currently the Broward County Commissioner for District 9. He's been doing that since 2010. And during that time, he served as the county mayor in 2019, as the vice mayor in 2019, and as the county mayor in 2020. Been keeping busy. And he supports capitalizing on Broward County's geographic uniqueness as a gateway to the Americas. I love it because it truly is. He is a strong advocate for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, as well as improving economic development opportunities for all. Commissioner Hotness is extremely active in the community, in many local and international civic organizations, including, but not limited to, being the chair of the Broward Black elected officials. He is a part of the Broward County Children's Services Board. He is part of the Haitian American Leadership Organization, the HIV Planning Council, the Broward League of Cities. He's a founding member of the Lauderdale Hill Regional Chamber. He is a member of the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Caribbean Democratic Club, he's a Broward Housing Council member, a member of the Broward Democratic Black Caucus, and an NAACP Life member. And I'm sure there's more that didn't make it to this list. But now we get to hear a very special message from Commissioner Dale Hotness.
Hello, good day. I am Dale Hotness, Broward County Commissioner for District 9, and last year, 2020, Mayor for the County of Broward. We are a nation of immigrants. In fact, from the founding days of this great country, immigrants were here, building. Even the Indians, or original people in America, when the Europeans came, is said to have immigrated here across the Barren Straits. Our founding fathers, including Alexander Hamilton, many were immigrants. We continue to be a nation of immigrants, and we should value immigrants because they are valuable to this country. There's a tremendous amount of value that immigrants bring to America. Let's start by the fact that 45% of our Fortune 500 companies were started by immigrants or their children. That's a tremendous amount of economic output that is generated as a result of these immigrants. Great scientists like Albert Einstein, an immigrant. We have immigrants in every aspect of our life in this country. Immigrants are often now described as essential workers. We saw that during the pandemic, there were many who were saving American lives. Some not even documented. When you look at the food we eat, those who grow and reap the crops are mostly immigrants. Yet for some reason, many in our nation demonizes immigrants. When they work hard to take care of themselves, their family, and in doing so help create prosperity for our country. There's absolutely no reason why we should not have immigration reform. The Congressional Budget Office points to the fact that we'd see an increase in the amount of revenues from taxes that the country would generate. Studies shown that if we had full-fledged immigration reform, we could grow our economy by more than $1.2 trillion. Let me say that again, $1.2 trillion. That would benefit every single person living in America. It's time for us to have full-fledged immigration reform so that we can create greater prosperity for all. In Broward County, 34% of our population are foreign born. In Broward County, 34% of the population here are foreign born, contributing in every way possible to help build our local community, to help build Broward County, to help build the state of Florida and our nation. We value immigrants because they're valuable to all of us. Those of you who are immigrants and are here and have legal status, after 3 years, if you're married to an American citizen, you can apply and become a U.S. citizen. And 5 years, if you have a green card, permanent residency, apply and become a U.S. citizen. Because if you're not a citizen and you're not registered to vote, you have no voice. Your vote is your voice in this democratic system of governance. And if you have no vote, meaning no voice, people will demonize you because they believe they can get away with it and agitate others to go against the best interest of America, which is what it is. When some who seek political office demonizes a group of Americans in order to get others to vote for them, that's destructive. It's counterproductive to what good governance ought to be about. It ought to be about how we bring everyone together to strengthen our families, to strengthen our businesses, and in so doing, create a more prosperous community, county, state, and nation. Let's continue to strive to be a better place. Let's continue to be the beacon of hope for everyone around the world, to see that we are an inclusive community. And because we're inclusive, we're stronger than anywhere else. That's another great strength we have, the diversity of our people, an inclusive population where everyone can reach out, support each other, and build a stronger, greater nation. No other country in the world has the diversity of people that we do, which allows us to send a loyal, patriotic citizen to every corner of the world, to go into these countries and open doors for us, whether it be through business, academia, culture, science, whatever it is. We are able to open doors and create opportunities for our businesses to sell more of our goods and our services. We must do more of that. Other countries are doing so. And they are at a disadvantage to us because they don't have the people power we have. People understand the world better than anywhere else because we are the world. Thank you. May God bless you. May God continue to bless you.
Wow, I am on fire listening like with all of these amazing messages of inclusion. 11 years ago, I came as a former refugee now to the state of Florida and have been felt welcome. And I want to make sure that all refugees, asylees, and immigrants community who come after that feels welcome and included. And that's why this kind of work is so important. We're gonna go now really quickly over the agenda because we have a day full of work. But next at 2, we will have researchers to go over how to study Florida's history of immigration. We will have an amazing panel that goes and start at 2. What about you, Oliver? What do you have?
So right after another amazing panel, well, it'll be a presenter, Saida Soler Medina, will be presenting on what is inclusion, a framework for policy and practice. So lots of great research will be presented there. And then right after, what do we have next, Basma?
So storytelling. We have been really leading this project with a lot of storytelling, and 2 amazing refugee and immigrant women who are going to share their stories today from 3:45 to 4:30. And next,
we'll be closing the day at 4:15 with Saida once again. A panel, the workshop will be called Is Florida Inclusive? And this will be an empirical evaluation. So using numbers and statistics to evaluate how inclusive different communities in Florida are.
yes, and after that, tomorrow at 1 p.m., again on Saturday, we will start the day with language rights in North Central Florida. Amazing speakers and researchers and organizers will share, but also we will have guests from out of the country to share about their work and how we should be more inclusive when it comes to language. And after that, Oliver?
And then at 2 p.m. tomorrow, Saida once again will present, and this one will be called What are the Goals of the U.S. Immigrant Serving Nonprofit Sector? Areas for Future Innovation, Strategic Planning, and Development. So once again, just lots of amazing research that's going to be shared out. And then after that, Basma.
Yes, and again, storytelling going to happen again tomorrow with 2 amazing speakers. And by the way, we're going to have some poems, some food, a lot of fun with these stories. And that will be from 3:45 all the way to 4:30. And then
at 3:15, the workshop I've been talking about, what is a community ID? Why is it critical for all of our communities, and how do we win locally to create community ID programs? And so I'll have the honor of co-presenting alongside Tomas Kennedy and Commissioner Hotness, from whom we just heard. And then finally, we'll be closing up tomorrow, Basma, with what?
Yeah, we're gonna come all together to talk about policy and action recommendation roundtable. Together, we will try to put together a comprehensive policy plan to make sure that this project doesn't end here. We start here, actually. Now we are learning about the history of immigrants and refugees and what inclusive means to over 400 people who took the survey for the Forward Together to understand how Florida has been inclusive to them and how we want to see Florida in the future. So stay tuned really and stay connected today and tomorrow to learn from all of these researchers, organizers, elected officials, lawmakers, to make sure that we are leading Florida to be more inclusive to everyone. I am really excited for this event. It's been really years of work that many organizations, coalitions, and researchers, organizers put in a lot of work on this project. So hopefully people could share the event. If your friends and families did not register to the event, please go ahead and register. Also check the booklet and all of these amazing links that Oliver shared in the beginning of this call, because it's really important for us to learn about the history before we go to the policy and action recommendation table. The booklet already sent in the email. If you did not receive it, we will send it to you. So make sure we have your email. Thank you so much. We will end now, and we will see you in less than 5 minutes with the next event.